Are you changing? Maybe it's time for a change? I'm Dr. Syra, and this is Therapist Thursdays. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is that it's okay to change. I remember when I left home for university, and that first year while I was away at school, my friends from high school would say, "You've changed." Like it was this awful thing. And I remember at the time thinking, oh no, I've changed. Are they not going to like me anymore? What's that going to mean? Am I letting people down because I'm changing? And the thing that I've learned over the years is that people change. And when you change, not everybody likes it. So I know for myself over the last few weeks and months with COVID-19, I've noticed a lot of changes in myself. My priorities, my interests, how I like to spend my downtime, the things I'm filling my mind with, the people that I'd like to spend time with, all of it has changed significantly. And I think maybe, I've talked to clients and I'm talking to family, and it seems like for a lot of us, this has been such a time of change. And the changes have kind of creeped up on us a little bit slowly, right? So it's like, I know for myself, the first couple of weeks I was kind of just, trying to figure out, trying to manage what's this going to look like. As we went along, I started getting a bit of a rhythm. And now over the last few weeks, after the Black Lives Matter protests and the new conversations that are starting to happen in my environment, I'm changing and I can feel it. And the old me would have been very uncomfortable with that change, would have tried to look on the outside as much of the same as possible. But what I've learned over the last few years, especially since my depression, is that the only person who really needs to be okay with me is me. End of the day, because people around us are going to have their opinions on what matters to them, and often they're going to think that should be what matters to you. So I want to talk to you about 3 things when you've noticed that you've changed. So first is acknowledging it, right, to yourself. You don't have to say it to anybody else, but just to acknowledge to yourself, you know what, I'm different. I care about different things. I'm acting in different ways than I used to. And the hope is, as we go along in our lives, that we do change, right? That we grow and evolve and become better people. Not changing is a sign of a sociopath. So the first step is admitting, yes, I've changed. The second is to look at what are some of the ways that you've changed, right? And to get really clear in what kind of themes or areas. So I know, as I said for myself, some of the things that have changed are how I choose to spend my time. My relationship to nature has really, really changed. And I would say that actually I was talking to my business coach today about how I've kind of gone back to a much younger version of myself where I had a lot of time in nature and I really connected to the outside, and that's coming back in me. So that's one of the ways I've changed. So have I changed? How have I changed? And the third one would be, what am I going to do about that with the people around me, right? Because it's one thing to make peace with your own self changing. It's another thing to realize that some of your relationships will start fading away. Some of the people who you really relied on for their guidance, their approval, their direction might not get what you're doing. They might not understand you anymore, and they might actually have they might be disappointed. They might be surprised in the kinds of choices that you're making. But I was talking to a cousin of mine about COVID-19 and the impact that it's had on so many of us, and he said something really profound. He said, it'll be a real shame, a real waste, if people don't come out of this changed, right? Because otherwise it's just something that happened, some period of time in your life, a certain number of weeks or months where, you had an experience, but it didn't really affect you. It didn't really make you look. And I know for myself, this has been a tough year. My dad passed away in October. And there's been lots of loss. And one of the things I've had to come to terms with is the only one that can live my life is me. And if I'm not living it on my own terms, then what's the point, right? What's the point? One of the things my husband and I have been talking about is, these big plans that people make for retirement. Oh, when we retire, we're going to do this. And when we retire, this is how it's going to be. And over and over in my own family, I've seen particularly the men, reaching a certain age, retiring, and then passing away. It's like, oh, we had all these plans and we waited and we waited and it never happened. And so I know for my husband and I and my family, we are moving ahead with some big changes, and I'll tell you about those kind of as we get more into them. But we're making changes. I'm making changes, and some of them will be really exciting for the people around me. Some of them will be confusing for the people around me, and some of them won't fit, and some people might fade away, and I'm learning to become okay with that. And so I would extend that to you. Last week we talked a little bit about, who are you really? And what I didn't share with you last week that I'd love to tell you about today is the ice cream story. Okay, so this is how it goes. Once upon a time, there was you, and you were born with a particular flavor of ice cream. So for me, that flavor was peanut butter chocolate. A little bit salty, a little bit sweet. Some people are actually deathly allergic and will die if they eat me, but other people seek me out. They search me out. And so I started off as peanut butter chocolate. And over the years, when you're a particular flavor from a very young age, you realize that everybody around you is vanilla. And if you want to fit in, you better start being more vanilla. And so for many years, me, you, we pretended to be vanilla. And we wore vanilla clothes, and we spoke of vanilla, and we made vanilla friends, and we had vanilla dreams. And at some point in our adult life, we're not fulfilled anymore. We feel like something's missing. We feel like we don't even really know who we are. And that's when that search happens. That personal search begins on the inside. And as we start remembering who we are, we start uncovering our real flavor. Our real flavor. And once we start uncovering our real flavor, we can't pretend anymore that vanilla is good enough. We just can't. We simply, and so once I learned that I was peanut butter chocolate, I had to spend more and more of my time being true to that flavor. And that's what change is about. It's not about changing into some other self. It's about remembering the truest version of yourself and coming home to that. And when that's happening, you'll feel it. You'll feel it because there'll be this sense of calm, this sense of knowing, this sense of solid groundedness when you claim your flavor. And some people, many people, don't like peanut butter chocolate. And so I've lost a lot of people along the way, but the people who are around me now are people who really love my flavor because they can see me. They're not relating to me as vanilla, and so I'm feeling seen. And so I would say to you, for those of you who are watching who feel like this is a time of change for you, make it a time of change where you're moving closer towards your truest self, moving, kind of reclaiming your flavor and being that flavor in the world. So those are my thoughts for you today on Therapist Thursdays. Join us next week. We're different topics every week. You can send me a note if you want me to speak to a particular topic, and make sure to like and subscribe. When you subscribe, I get like perks on YouTube. So if you want me to keep doing this, if this is helpful to you, make sure to subscribe and like and all of that. I'll see you next week. Bye.